Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's been a very long day for you, and so we will now be starting on the new panel discussion. So my name is Saloni Nangya, and I work with a consulting firm called Technopack, and I will be hosting this panel, which is about reinventing your business, really looking at what the challenges can be and how do you, adapt to them in the future. I know this panel stands between 2 days of serious conferencing and an evening of glitz and glamour. And so you would like to, so we will make sure that it's interesting enough for you. As you all know that retail and consumer markets in India are a mixed bag. There is a great opportunity and there is a great new opportunity that's coming up in India, but there are big challenges as well. And it's absolutely imperative for any business which is consumer facing. So be it retail, be it non-retail, but any business which is consumer facing, for them to reinvent continuously. And that's something that we will be talking about. The fact that reinvention has helped many, many companies internationally. So there are extreme examples. So you have the example of Apple, with their reinvention, where they've reinvented music through iPod and iTunes. Or you have the other extreme example of Kodak, which completely missed the bus. So it is extremely important for any company which is currently in India or internationally to be focusing on reinvention. But how do we look at reinvention? How do we go about it? And that's something that a lot of companies would like to understand. And that's the reason why we'd like to address it as a part of this panel, that how do we reinvent our business? So do we go a complete big bang and reinvent the entire business? Or do we do it in bits and pieces? Do we go slowly around it? Do we really look at completely reinventing the business model? Or do we go process by process or do it in bits and pieces as we talked about? Is it planned? Is it something that you incorporate as a part of the DNA of your company? Or is it something that is opportunistic? And when do you start reinventing? For companies which haven't really incorporated it, when do they start reinventing? When it's broken? Or, you're still healthy and you're still doing well in the business. So to discuss these aspects and many more, it is an absolute pleasure for me to host this panel where we have 4 panelists who together have an extreme wealth of experience in creating, in reinventing businesses. So business leaders, market leaders, game changers, and very, very esteemed professionals in their own right. So I'd briefly like to just talk about our panelists before we move on to the panel discussion. So we have with us here with Mr. Ajay Kaul, who is the CEO of Jubilant Foods, and he's really the person behind Domino's success strategy over the last 15 years. Mr. Ravinder Zutshi, Deputy Managing Director of Samsung, and he's really scripted the success of Samsung in India. Mr. Damodar Mal, who has a very rich experience in retail, in consumer products, as well as has been an entrepreneur, so brings in various aspects of the business. And Mr. Vasant Kumar, who's Executive Director, Max, who had the task of creating a value fashion label in a crowded market 6 years ago. He also brings in a very rich experience of both fashion and consumer goods. So while you're eager to hear their perspective, I just want to very briefly talk about how we've structured the discussion and what are we trying to achieve from this discussion. There are 4 things. One is, when do companies really understand? When do they need to start reinventing? What are the triggers that they need to look at? Is it internal or external? Second thing that we'd like to talk about is, what are the components? One is, of course, looking at the complete business, but are there specific components to do with retail? So be it consumer, be it your channel, be it your customer service, be it product, be it supply chain, be it sourcing. What are the components that one needs to look at, to reinvent the business? What are the challenges? And our panelists would be sharing their experience. Some of the success stories have been very strong, and they would be sharing how they have been able to successfully reinvent. And the third part is, what are the challenges they faced? Be it people, be it, how long did it take for them to get the process going, to get the culture in the company? Was it was there enough capital available for it? Was there enough time available for it? Was there enough mind space available for it? So what are the challenges that they came across? And finally, as leaders of current companies or future businesses in India, what is it that the leaders need to do to make sure that the DNA and the culture of the company is about reinvention and is about staying ahead of the competition and the consumer? So the way we've structured the panel is I would be inviting each of our panelists to come and share their perspective on the topic, their experience on the topic, either through a presentation or through an extempore. And so once we are through with their perspective, we will have a discussion around the areas that they have talked about, and then we will open and we'll invite the audience for, we'll invite questions from the audience. Without much ado, may I request Mr. Ajay Kaul to come and start the panel discussion, and he would be using a presentation.
Thank you, Saloni. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here. When Saloni sent this email that, you got to present and you have 8 to 10 minutes, I, like a very good, diligent boy, immediately put a presentation down. Incidentally, I'm the only guy who's going to present with some slides. So if you want to know who's the good boy, the diligent, hardworking in this group, you don't have to think too far. But probably there is also a flip side to look at it, which is more realistic, that it is people like me who need these presentations. The real doyens, the experts of the retail trade in the country are sitting right there, and they have to just release their minds, and you will get all the gyan and everything else. On that lighter note, when I was thinking of my presentation, and you look at the topic, what I was told myself is that if you look at retail in general, and if you specifically look at our space, which is food service retail, in the evolution of the life cycle, 15, 20 years is still too small for businesses to reinvent themselves. Anywhere in the world, as much as it's true for us in India. So have we really got cases, or has there been a need to reinvent ourselves totally? If to simplify this argument, if you were to look at this whole space on call it a technology stroke manufacturing stroke processes on one axis, and let's say markets and consumers on the other axis, has there been a need to enter entirely new markets and entirely new technologies to be brought in? The answer to that is a resounding no. So revolutionary reinvention has not been the need, and probably the industry has not seen that at a very, very broad scale. But probably in some instances there have been augmented technologies, augmented markets, consumers, and so on, which probably are not cases of revolutionary reinvention, but probably semi-reinvention and so on. My endeavor, with help of my presentation, which you will see, I tried to kind of tell myself, what are those 6 to 8 things I can tell you in 8 to 10 minutes, where they may not have been reinventions, but they were a part of the way we were thinking, the way we brought in business into the country, which in itself were a bit revolutionary in nature. You may not call them reinventions, but they are thought-provoking, and they probably will leave, and that will be my endeavor, to leave some thoughts in your mind that how you sometimes need to challenge a lot of things that come in your way. The first and foremost there is the very business model. A lot of times business models, especially in companies like ours, 50 years of heritage and so on, they are a given. The question is, why shouldn't you challenge the model? Why shouldn't you challenge what is otherwise a given condition? And that is what we did in our case. We are experts at delivery. India is a nascent market from a delivery perspective. So go in for delivery, hammer it hard, and you will be a success. And which we did for the first 7-8 years. We also launched 30 minutes nahi to free, which is also a point in itself, and that will come in one of my subsequent slides. We did all that, but conventional wisdom on one side, 50 years of heritage on one side, there was research telling us that there is an emerging dine-in segment, which needs to be, of course, addressed separately, but you can't ignore it. And that's where we challenged the model. We had to fight literally with our parent, brand, Domino's International. There was no country in the world where dine-in was being focused upon. They cautioned us that you will kind of deviate from a known successful path, and as a result, you may make a mishmash or a mess up of everything. But we still went ahead. So you got to have conviction. It's a bit of research-based, bit of insight-led, but you can or should challenge the model. Don't think business models are given and, that's it. We can't challenge it. So what did we do? While we did embed delivery, and we did a good job at that, 30 minutes nahi to free and all those things, but we also have brought in dine-in and crafted it as a part of our strategy. You'll be amazed that today, while in bigger cities where many of you reside, you may have seen Domino's that much more visible, high streetish and so on, unlike what you see in other countries. But you go to smaller tier 2, tier 3 cities, the Punes, the Bangalores of the world, we are up there, high street, 50, 60 covers, new processes have been crafted, new infrastructures have been created in these stores. And what has happened as a result, you will be surprised that our dine-in business alone has grown at 50% system level over the last 3 years, year after year. And our same store growth, which is often the best health of franchise measure in our business, has grown at 30%. So first message, challenge the business model. Don't leave it. In our business, food service retail in particular globally, you open the first 50, 60 stores yourself. Thereafter, you sub-franchise. Various compulsions, whether it's capital, whether it's risk, aversion, or whether it's diversifying the risk or whatever. We were trying to follow a similar path in India. But what we realized is that sanitation and hygiene in India, the standards were not up to global levels. Human practices, again, was a bit of an issue. Quality. And finally, we realized that a part of our growth strategy was also to enter these tier 3, tier 4 cities where it would get that much more compromised upon if we were to rely on franchisees. But it also meant a lot of things, that we had to have our own capital, we had to kind of become, generate that kind of capital and so on. So what did we do? 100% of our stores today are our own stores. It puts tremendous pressure on our capex line, on generating the return on investments and so on. Intense focus on profitability and return on investment as a result. We brought in. The good news is that we have become debt free, which means all the internal accruals that we have actually fund all our expansion. And as a result, at 18.7% EBITDA return on sales, we are one of the highest in the industry. And this has been growing by at least 2 percentage points year after year in the last 3 to 4 years. Our return on capital employed, for everybody's benefit, is in excess of 42, 43%. Share price is at a reasonably crazy level, 40 times EBITDA and so on. But most importantly, while we did all this, to ensure that your hygiene and everything was in place, we are amongst the top 3 best run operations in Domino's worldwide in the last 5 years. So that is the crux. That is where it started from. We do not want to rely on a sub-franchisee because hygiene, sanitation, quality, human practices may not be up to the mark. This is often beaten to death, middle of the pyramid. What do you do with them? Clearly, that's a huge opportunity because the middle class is sitting there. And while pizza had an urban Western image till around 2007-8, we realized that to get into the hinterland, to get into the masses, it had to change that image. So we had to come out with an affordability value offer, and India can gobble up value offers and so on. So what did we do? We launched a 35 rupees, 70 US dollar cent. It's unthinkable when we talk to our parent brand. They said, how can you launch a pizza like this? Come on, cannot be. But what we did is we launched it, we bundled it with some offers to ensure that the cheap image wasn't there. It was a value offer, and of course we did a lot of re-engineering and so on. And what did that do to us? Our same store growth over the last 3 to 4 years has been in the vicinity of 22, 37, 30%, and this year first quarter, 23%. It's the best in the industry in India and also in the Domino's world. It's today Pizza Mania, or this affordability product, is more than 10% of our total revenue mix, and it was quite a hit even with the media. The message again being that while India middle class will gobble up things, but you got to price it well. It should not be seen as a cheap offer. You got to keep value in perspective, more than just the price and the cheap perception. But the critical piece in this whole thing is have a full range which addresses even the top end as well as the middle end and so on. Don't just become unidirectional in your approach, and you will hit success. There is no substitute to brand building, especially in downturn, and we saw a downturn 3 or 4 years back. This probably, you may argue, is relevant not only for the retail industry, but it is true for most industries in general, but surely in the retail industry where the touch points are higher, where the number of times the consumer comes into contact with you are higher, it's that much more important. So what happened? Why did we do this? Brand is what the company stands for. People brand follows a similar trajectory, and this was clearly an insight which we hung on to. In times of distress, downturn, recession, call it whatever, the amount of money or investment which you make on the brand and the people brand is what builds the trust. And in good times is where you start reaping benefits. It's not easy because it means plucking money and putting it in those lines there. And it is always a temptation to kind of not do that and show your EBITDA in better light. But if you were to take my word, build the brand, build the people brand in times of downturn. And we are going through seemingly, a similar situation, not similar to what it was in 2008-9, but kind of early warning signals are there. This is probably the time for you to do that. So it works with both internal and external customers. And that's the time when we actually went on launching what we called our positioning, a new positioning, which was Khushiyon Ki Home Delivery, which was building an emotional connect with our customers, building the brand further in the customer's mind. We doubled the learning and development spent during that period on our employees. The employees also value, because at that time they are frustrated. They probably are not sure about their jobs. And when they see this company is adding more and more value to me, this is the company I have to hang on with. So what has happened as a result? In the last 5 to 6 years, we have been in the list of Hewitt Best Employers every single time, top 25. In the Great Place to Work, again, we have been in these lists year after year. We have clocked 30% plus same-store growth. I've already talked about it. And we have near zero attrition in the last 5 years in the senior management. There are other factors also, but clearly brand building. So that's a message I would like to leave with you. As my fourth point. Operational and service feature has the power to be a sustainable marketing element. Exploit it. Often marketing people make this, mistake. And this can happen typically in an FMCG setup and so on. But because in retail, it is a mix of marketing, call it the consumer side, and a strong operation side. The last mile value add, if I may use that term, especially in our industry, is so high. Only when you order a pizza does somebody start making it. It is not something which is manufactured in the factory. And the last mile value add is very, very marginal. But don't feel shy of looking at a service feature which has the ability and the power to become a marketing feature, and as a result can bring in home customer loyalty and everything. So why did we do this? Experts at delivery heritage was always there, but with crazy traffic situation in India, delivery with finality was a big need. If executed well, it could become our USP. And there are a few other things there that why we want to become top of mind awareness and so on. So there was a strong need, and this was of course supported by the changing demographics, lifestyle changes and all that in the environment, which told us that delivery was going to be a big segment. So how do we become undisputed market leaders in delivery? So what did we do there? We took it to the finality, which no country had ever done before. 30 minutes, nahi to free. Strong advertising supported it. It had to be done scientifically. It took us a year to launch it from the time we had kind of conceptualized it, because we could have gone bankrupt. So this is almost also like going back to your model and saying, how can I augment an offer, a service offer, which has the power of becoming a marketing offer for the consumers, can make you go bankrupt. So you got to do your homework very, very well. But it worked for us, thankfully. And there were things like giving free pizza is against the DNA of a lot of giving something free out even within our company. So we had to build a culture of celebrating these occasions. So we actually cut cakes in our store when the first free pizza was given out to the customer to take that guilt out of people. So what has happened? We are synonymous with delivery today, 70% plus market share, growth of 48% over the last 6 years in running, CAGR, and same store growth of 24% over a 6-year period. So the message I want to leave with you is, a lot of times the marketing people get caught in purely the marketing attributes and so on. But in the retail industry, there are service dimensions led by people, led by technology and so on, which have the power of becoming in this quasi FMCG retail space to become, as strong a USP as any marketing feature would be. Owned and dedicated supply chain. This is probably a no-brainer, but why I'm putting it here is, a lot of times in the beginning, especially in the retail industry, you can have the urge of letting it out to an expert because your volumes are small. Because there are infrastructural challenges. In our industry, cold chain plays a big role. and it is still, you can say, primitive in some ways. Quality cannot be compromised, but again, with the widespread, of the country, the expanse and so on, and especially with our strategic focus of getting into tier 3 and tier 4 cities, it was very important. Last but not the least, and this is a crucial one, vendor ecosystem, and you should have the vision to see this. Vendor ecosystem in the food industry is still primitive. Today, just to cite an example, we have dedicated 90 trucks, cold chain trucks, who operate for us. The largest cold chain operator also, I'm told, is in the same zone. We have issues because when we require, in product development, because when we want to launch products, a lot of times there aren't vendors who can supply us that kind of stuff to us. It is not like a conventional, retail business, grocery, apparel and shoes and so on, because these are food vendors, the ecosystem around them has to operate, the logistics and everything. So what did we do? We opened our own infrastructure. It meant costs, but I think if I look back now, especially kind of growth that we have had, this is probably what we need to do. So again, challenge the status quo. Tell yourself that sometimes you need to build infrastructure in a country like India, because if your vision is that much more distant and far. Today we are present in 110 cities, and now you can see it in a better light, why you need to have your supply chain in your own control. I have 2 more points quickly. I hope I'm still within time. Brand journey has to evolve. You may argue that 15, 20 years for an industry is not too long. It's that much more in a life cycle. It takes that much time to build your functional, attach functional benefits or functional laddering in the consumer's mind. But what we decided was that even while it was not too long, we had to kind of gradually move into the emotional zone with our consumers. So, brand has to move from a pure emotional benefit level to emotional zone. The brand has to derive this inspiration from a life site, and so on and so forth. So what did we do? After establishing the functional benefits, to establish my brand, and that is true at a functional level, but somewhere you need to migrate into that emotional zone. And last but not the least, which I'll quickly run over, and this is probably true for any industry, more so in our case, because we have as many as 17,000 owned employees. We don't sub-franchise. You got to have a glue by which these people deliver the last mile value add. In our business, 75% of our employees are consumer facing. If the vision or the qualitative dream, if I may call, because people can't relate to so much PAT, so much EBITDA, 20% growth, they can't relate to all that. But Dil Wali Baat, you can mobilize people by doing Dil Wali Baat with them. And that's precisely what this basically is. Have a vision, build a dream. These dreams need not be long. 3 years to my mind, and we have been doing 2008, 2011, and now we have an ambition 2014. You got to build this dream from your heart, Dil se. Keep it simple, anybody can understand. Something for anybody, which means a guy knows that he's contributing to the company's dream. I'm playing a stellar role in that. My efforts are not going waste and so on. And as a result, it leads to empowerment, accountability, belongingness and so on. This, you may argue, is an insight for any industry. I think in retail industry, that much more, because it's that much more people-centric. And if you are non-franchised, your own stores, you got to have that glue which can bring people together. I hope I have not exceeded my time. But with those words, I would like to close saying that you may think that some of these are probably relevant to all industries. Maybe they are. I've tried to orient them in a way that they are more appealing to the retail industry. But that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaul. Very, very important points. So challenge the business model. Don't go with the status quo. Look at affordability, because India is a country where you need to have affordable options if you want to target a larger market. Invest in brand building in all times, not only in the good times. The last mile, specifically in retail and service, is very, very important. And have a dream and share the dream with the team and carry your team with you. I think those are very important points. Next, I'll request Mr. Vasant Kumar.
Very good evening to all the delegates. This is the last day, last show. And I'm sure the time you are spending here listening to us, it will be quite worth a while. From our end, each of us have strived to take the business which we are heading in a way which is different from what is happening in India. And the success of Domino's, the success of other businesses like Samsung and food definitely bears that out. Here I am talking to you about the division which I am heading called Max Fashions. I don't know how many people are aware of this brand Max. Today, as we speak, this Max, which is 6 years old, it's in the value fashion space, marketing fashion apparel at keen prices. We started the first store in 2006 in Indore, Treasure Island Mall. Today we are 67 stores. We have 5 million consumers, 8 million square feet, growing at a 40% CAGR every year. That includes 15% like for like, heading towards 800 crores by this year, 4,000 employees, and profitable. Now, if you cut back to 2006, when this brand was launched, we understood the environment we are in. India is costly, both in terms of real estate as well as operations. And doing an organized retail and ensuring that you get the right customer base with whom you can grow is not easy, because it is very diverse. Each zone has their own regional preferences. Each mall has its own way of attracting customers. We went about doing the SWOT. We said the opportunity is this. It is a 50,000 crore apparel and accessory market in India, growing at 8% per annum. To anybody, 50,000 crore market at 8% is very juicy. The market already has firmly entrenched players in fashion space. The organized retail is not high. It is barely 15%. 85% of this market is unorganized. Operational costs are very high, both in terms of rentals as well as your manpower and interest costs to run the show. When you analyze the strengths, we are a company which is part of the Landmark Group, Dubai. It's a $4.5 billion group only in retail. So there is a huge equity, competence which is there in retail, which is brought to the table. One biggest competence or a culture which the group brings is perseverance. Wait it through till you get your result. Now that helped us, because in India, when you don't know what next quarter is going to be, if you're not having that ability to persevere, any day you can derail. Another thing is the failure rate. Value fashion failure rate, 95%, even in India. But as I speak, between 2006 and 2012, there were 14 failures in this industry in India, all targeting value fashion, and failed. The group was very aware of this. They said definitely failure rates are going to be high. If you persevere this model of focusing on value fashion, offering fashion merchandise at keen prices in a very enjoyable environment, customers will beat the path. That's the tack we took. Here again, what came to our aid is our international success story. Max has been launched a couple of years before it was launched in India. It was launched in 2004 internationally. It is spread across 15 countries. The success there showed that the success in Dubai and Middle East showed that if you get the same model tweaked and implemented in India, you will be successful here as well. And year after year, we were fortunate to get full support from our parent company, right from design input to knowledge about supply chain, to handling real estate dynamics, to retailing environment, every single thing. There's a lot of know-how transfer that happened, so that you don't trip as you go. Also, you don't get distracted with things happening around you, because a lot of short-term decisions get taken and you should not get distracted. So that helped us. It held us in good stead. Coming to the threat, India as I told you, is very diverse. Hence, just replicating what is done in Dubai is not adequate. It won't suffice. We need to have, that happened in every industry, I'm sure. You need to take the relevant part of the international heritage, international designs, but also add the local input. For instance, in Dubai, it's focused on Western wear. In India, ethnic is very important. So we put an ethnic team in developing apparel for women and added to that. Today, that is 1/5 of our business. Even Western wear need to be tweaked to suit the Indian women. So we did all that, and season after season, as we expanded, we were able to get the right profile to the right catchment. Another important thing which we decided is steady expansion. We said we will expand 12 stores a year, maximum 14 stores a year. So now we are touching 70 stores over 6 years. More or less, we were in the right pace. For the next 3 years also, we have taken the same thing, 14 stores per year. And India being a large market for value fashion, this 14 can be perpetual as well. There's no limit to number of stores that can open in India, simply because that 50,000 crore is expanding at 8% per annum perpetually. Took cognizance of the vulnerabilities. For instance, in India, vendor base is very poor. Supply chain is also having a lot of bottlenecks. Here again, we took the help of our international strength. We lined up vendors who also work from Dubai. There we have, for your information, 1,200 stores, clocking $4.5 billion across all formats. So there is a lot of equity for any vendor to work for the group. So we used that, and then we got the right vendor base to support us. And from then we started. It was very tough first 2 years, because if you get caught in a wrong real estate, then you have a problem right through. So we took our time to ensure we are in the right, either in the right place or not at all. And there again, we got full support from our vendors, because at that time, sourcing for 6 stores, 8 stores is very difficult. Vendors saying, why am I doing this for you? All we said is, our vision is this: you will get 100 stores over 6, 8 years, and we will be with you, and definitely we'll grow together. That helped us. And step by step, we were able to grow. If I now see what were the success, now coming to the current as we speak, when I told you about the current status, I will touch upon what else helped us to achieve this. It is not that you decide to expand one a month and everything is fine. What is required is reinventing the business, fashion business, as it was seen in India. Why? Because the market is still saturated in the organized retail. While the conversion is only 15%, those 15% is occupied by big companies with established, loyal customer base. Part of our growth will come through conversion from unorganized retail to organized retail, but part of the growth has to come from organized itself. Here again, we change the whole paradigm, which is the topic of the day. We said we have to reinvent this category. Today, this category actually works on the premise that I will price fashion high. Whoever buys, I'll be able to get better margin. Whatever unsold, I'll have to clear it through end of season sale, and even it means at a margin loss, and get back my money. In the process, what has happened to the industry, every mistake committed by the company in reading the market ended up jacking up the price. I have to sell a lot of stocks through clearance last season, so let me increase the MRP by 10%. And over a period of time, we could see the price gone much higher than what is normally required. We said we will give a similar product at 25 to 30% cheaper, which means our price will be competitive even during a sale period. We are the only concept who puts full price sale even during a sale period and doesn't get affected, because the pricing is still sharper even in a sale environment. The question comes, when you are at 25% less priced, how will you manage your business model? Our business model, which is taken from a parent company, is this: 80% full price, 80 to 85% full price, and not more than 10%, 6 to 8% actually is the sale price. Even in sale, we don't give more than 25% off. When you go into 80% full price, then what happens is, customers know that this brand, you will never get deals. It's similar to what Walmart does, it is everyday low price. We put the price in the beginning and sustain it right through. Ensure 80% sale happens, and to the last portion, we will do a markdown. Number two, the industry rotates 3 times a year. We rotate 5 times a year. If you're having a margin which is 25% less, but rotate 50% more, you actually get more margins than them. But then that requires a lot of effort to get the customer profile aligned to your product, which is where our bulk of effort goes. Understanding the customer profile, what is required, what is not required. So everything happens inside the store. And once you customize, customization happens over a 12-month period. We'll know the customer what he or she prefers and accordingly do it. Once you lock it to the customer, then it means rotate faster, faster and faster. And what happens, customer then comes to us not for the price, but for the freshness. And that's where we were able to gain. That's how we are able to get a LFL of 15% in a market where LFL itself is a problem. The other third part which we focused on is experience. We said great product, very well priced, but deliver it with a wonderful experience, nice experience. We are not a prestige store. We are a value fashion store. But in a value fashion environment, we ensured that the right product availability is there, the right way of merchandise coordinates are there, the right level of fashion is there. We don't do high fashion. We don't do basics also. What we do in our parlance, we call it as a one-up fashion, wearable fashion. That ensured that the customer saw us fashionable enough, wearable, at the same time affordable. This is the model which is followed internationally at Max. Incidentally, this is the most successful apparel model in the world. You see all the likes of H&M, Primark, in a way Zara, Esprit in Europe, all of them follow this. Offer fashion at value, rotate fast, and go for full price. The same model is what is, Max is a version of that. We had done a hybrid, which is pushing fashion to a certain level, at the same time giving value also to an Indian context. Now this is what we did, season after season, and through that, by rotating it faster, we are able to get our margins and still be able to offer excellent merchandise to the customer. The beauty in this is, as we expand, now we are 70 stores, getting into 100 stores by 13, 14, you can do better and better, because as the buys become better, you understanding your customer becomes better and better, you can offer products at a really keen price vis-a-vis competition. And that's the road we have embarked on. Parallelly, there is another variable, which is the marketing. We said, since we are keen price, we can't afford to go for high profile advertisement. By design, it has to be very, very optimal, or rather low, I should say. Because whatever we gain out of that money, we put it back in the product. Hence, we shifted to what we call as experiential marketing. Each store, there's a defined catchment of 3 kilometers. Whatever we do is so-called below the line, connecting with the local customer through events. Our target customer is the young family. We have events. For instance, we have a series of events called Little Icon, a fashion show, where the participants are the kids. We go to schools, we go to families and get kids participate, and we do it across the store network and showcase the best kid in town. That has really helped us in connecting with the customer. The other set of events we do is called Fashion Icon. We go to colleges, We enroll boys and girls for doing fashion show with us, and we chose the best guy and the girl. Again, they become the model in that city. We do these two events in tier 2 cities where there is very less focus from the big companies, and such cities really come forward and actively participate in that. Slowly we graduated, and we started sponsoring. There was one Miss Bangalore in Bangalore, which we sponsored, and that association helped us to connect customers with fashion very strongly. And as we progressed, today as we speak, we have also tied up with Femina Miss India. This year we are the fashion sponsor for Femina Miss India. The models will be wearing Max on the ramp. So through that, what we did is we broke the notion that fashion is expensive. Fashion can be affordable if it is handled right. That's the whole thing. So much so, the theme, the mission which we have is democratize fashion. Any fashionable product can be made accessible on a day-to-day basis. And our theme also says that make everyday fashionable. You don't need to plan for becoming fashionable. Every day you can be fashionable through Max. And by building this marketing through the local and through activation, we flanked the whole need of trying to outspend and try to create the brand. So we are able to reinvent the way marketing is done. We are able to reinvent the product pricing it is done. And in terms of the place, we were available, we went and ensured that we are in the high traffic zones. We were either available in malls, which is 75% of our stores, or in high street, which is where walk-ins come. By being in high traffic zone, automatically customer sees us. When they experience the brand, they go back and come for more. With that, our need to do marketing drastically comes down. So that's how the whole piece were aligned. And over a period of 6 years, we were able to build step by step and able to reach a level where now slowly people have started seeing Max as a brand. And over the next 4 years, we are very confident that the same 40% CAGR can be sustained, at least a 35% CAGR. And as we close and get into 100 store plus, nationally, this will be seen as a brand. Whereas even today, it is seen as a brand in certain zones. Whereas in markets, for instance, a Bombay city or a Delhi city, still we were not able to, because of real estate reasons, we are not able to spread. We are available in an NCR outskirts or in a Navi Mumbai outskirt, but still not in the main markets. But the next stage we see, as it becomes a brand, we should be able to get into a high cost property and still sweat and get into it. I mean, on an example, I can say the brand like Primark, it took 35 years for them to come to Oxford Street. And today, the highest selling store in Oxford Street is Primark. And that is one of the landmark value fashion players, one of the leaders in value fashion in UK, but it took 35 years for them to come to Oxford Street. So for us, we are not in a tearing hurry to come to a South Bombay or South Delhi, but when we come, we will come in a manner where we are able to sweat the floor to be able to afford the cost. Because we don't believe in coming to a store and bleed. We ensure that every single store is managing itself at the store level. That's a discipline we have taken, because this value fashion means you have to sweat every rupee. And we don't have the luxury of throwing money for the sake of so-called brand building. If there's a loss-making store, we don't see it adding value to the brand. In fact, it lowers the value of the brand. That is the philosophy we have, so that there's a lot of consciousness to sweat the floor. One thing I can tell, that in terms of, if there is one goal which we have achieved, which to us, I can say that it's a hallmark for Max, that you can check out with any of your colleagues. In any mall, the most productive brand in that mall will be Max, in terms of sales per square feet. So this is how we are able to build, and I'm confident that this is going to be a strong foundation now in the years to come. Thank you. I just want to show a half-a-minute audio visual. With that, I close it. Thank you.
A very important points from a fast fashion perspective. So be it productivity, be it the fact that you need to question paradigms when you're sourcing, when you're looking at your full price versus discounting, where you're looking at communication to make sure that affordability and fashion can come together, and the fact that you invest in the lower cost BTL activities or experiential marketing vis-a-vis spending a whole lot of money on just communicating to the consumer. I'll invite our next speaker, Mr. Damodar Mal from Future Group, who we're requesting to share his experience on reinventing at retail and within the consumer product segment.
No, I'm not talking about the journey of Future Group or its brands, Big Bazaar, Food Bazaar, Central, Pantaloons, Hometown, etc., and what we do. I think spending a bit of time making a couple of points on reinventing or facing up to change, being ready for change is relevant, and the manner in which we think about it in a place called Future Group. I think reinvention in emerging markets like India is not a really an event once in a while. Reinvention in emerging markets that are growing at the kind of pace which is world beater today is a day sport. It's something that we are ready for. It's something that we have all to be chasing all the time. Why? At the kind of pace at which urban customers, urban incomes are growing, aspirations are growing every year, in 5 to 7 years' time, you're actually servicing a customer at double the income levels. At double the income levels, paradigms change, expectations change. What they demand out of us completely changes. In Delhi NCR, if I launch my first store in the year 2001, then the 14th store that I launch in 2012 is metaphorically, by the comparison with that Delhi, is metaphorically being launched in Bangkok. So there is no question, everything in the life of the customer in the city of Delhi has changed. The buses that she travels in, the roads that she moves on, the airports in her life, the trains that have come out of nowhere are now a core part of who families are and who the customers are. When that happens, we have to know that we are chasing a moving target, and when you chase a moving target, being nimble-footed and being ready for change is not a luxury. It's a necessity. All of us who are driving businesses of this kind in emerging markets have to be ready for every day. The example of Domino's that we saw in the entire industry there, food service industry, nobody is implementing on the ground models that are pure models, proven worldwide and powerful. Everybody has learned, everybody has done the walk with the customer and has modified so that you are in tune with this emerging customer and her challenges. Not just the customer point of view, but even our city point of view, region point of view. Retail has to think catchment by catchment, constituency by constituency. I may be running a chain, but in the life of my customer, there is only one store, and that's the brand that she has to be experiencing. The way I saw Central Bombay 5 or 7 years back, and the way I see it today as a retailer, is a complete paradigm shift. One of my most premium food retail stores has its flagship in Central Bombay and is very successful. Customer point of view, city point of view, geography point of view has to keep shifting because our cities are morphing themselves at a pace which is much faster than any stable business model would like in the normal course. Advantage that retailers have, as I mentioned, is that for the customer it's one store at a time. Unlike a distributed product brand, FMCG brand as we understand it, retail can transform itself in few catchments at a time, take high level of risk of trying something audacious and completely different from the rest of the chain, something that shows is today's thinking, learn it on the ground instead of simulating in market research, and then take the change right across. So morphing, changing, and reinventing in retail is structurally simpler, better, and lower risk, and therefore we must do it faster and more often. If you take the Indian context, the customers, the vendors, the entrepreneurs, and even employees in their own roles are far more flexible and open to change. We are doing it, it's happening to us all the time. It's the businesses that prefer to have stable, stated models. And I think if you learn to be flexible, the reinvention required by such markets every 3 to 5 years will be a breeze for us. Within the 165 store chain called Big Bazaar, there are some stores that reflect our thinking as of 2002. There are some stores which reflect our thinking as of 2008. There are some stores which reflect our thinking currently as of 2020. And we are testing these on the ground. So these are reinvention working processes which are already on the ground. And what works, and I always say this, that an insight is only validated in hindsight. What works, we'll call it strategy. What doesn't work, we'll fold it up and never talk about it. And practice our innovations, practice our change on the ground with the customer playing the game with us. Our simple toolkit should be, and this got touched upon in the discussion that we had earlier as well, a distinct point of view about the opportunity that you are choosing, a distinct point of view about the customer, and if these points of view you find are the same as what your competitors and other players in the industry have, then we tell ourselves, if that's the feeling, just turn left, turn right, turn wherever. But anything which is done by everyone in the industry is already useless as a competitive advantage. You must have a point of view that is different. You must have a dream which is different from what the other people in the industry, your peer group in the industry do. That distinction is important. I think it's a strength to be genuinely a turncoat. In polite language, one would call it being an unlearner. To be able to say that what I believed in 3 years back, what I believed in last year, is invalid, and this is the new belief because this is the new reality that this is my new point of view about the market. And I will use something that the head of Colgate in India once said, that we all know that the learning curve is steep. But the learning curve is actually steeper on the way down. The resistance always is you take longer to unlearn, and traveling light on your point of view about the business is probably the second thing that I would always keep handy as an organization. And the third, have a bunch of people who are believers in the story and the dream that you have together. Change per se, like I said, is part of markets, emerging markets, rapidly emerging markets like India. The rest of the ecosystem is far more open to change than people who have their business model set in their mind, who actually have an ego and a stake in the status quo. I believe, as Ajay had mentioned, I believe that we are all getting our first set of models right. Reinvention has to keep happening in different parts of the business all the time. There are no losers in markets like India. There are only opportunity losers. And those who don't reinvent will be the opportunity losers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mal. Very, very relevant and good points, and especially from a retail perspective. The fact that the consumer is evolving so fast, and it's absolutely essential that we keep up or keep ahead of the consumer. We need to be flexible. We need to think local. We need to think store by store. We need to think local and regional, and not really on a national level. Have a distinct point of view, have a competitive advantage, should be able to differentiate, and the consumer should be able to understand that. accept the fact that the market is changing and what we did 3 years ago might not be relevant today. So accept it and move along with that and have a great team of people who believe in what you're doing. So our last guest, Mr. Ravinder Zucchi, I'm inviting him to share the Samsung experience. And once Mr. Zucchi had quoted to a newspaper saying that Samsung has been one of the most hated and most loved brands in India. And so it would be very interesting to hear from his perspective on both the aspects.
Thank you, Saloni. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think the last day, the last show, and the last speaker. So I hope I keep your interest alive to hear me out for the next 15 minutes from this podium. I was trying my best to pass my presentation to this notebook. Probably couldn't succeed from my phone, so I will probably make it more extempore. And in case they succeed in getting my file set in the notebook, probably I'll go back to presentation. I think we heard retail, we heard apparel retail, we heard general retail business, and of course the food business from Mr. Kaul. Samsung is also, as you all know, in consumer durable business worldwide, including India. India business started in 1995. It's been a long journey for all of us here, and we have fairly succeeded in ensuring that we are a loved brand in India through a lot of hard work, a lot of challenges, looking at the consumer inside and what consumer really demand in this country. But one thing I would like to state here is that when we came to India in 1995, it was a very difficult task to communicate to the Indian consumer that what a South Korean brand is like to be. People thought it was a very trash brand. Nobody knew about this brand in India in 1995. From that perspective, because that time it was all Japanese brands across India. We had all the top Jap majors operating in India, including a very leading Indian brands in consumer durable business. So it was a big fight and a big entry to make in this hard-fought consumer durable battleground. From that perspective to today, 2012, we are very proud to say that we have reached fairly good success in India. Globally also as well, as you all have been seeing a lot of news currently. Samsung has been the highest growing brand worldwide, very like Apple, I would say here. We've grown almost 40% over last year. We moved as a top brand from 17th position to 9th position, grown by 40% with a brand asset value of $36 billion US. And that's a big success for this company, which was almost in 2-3 years back, almost at level of 22 and 24 status. So what I'm saying here is that it's been a big success for this brand. And in India also, I think we have been able to succeed to probably emulate what is happening globally and create our niche for our people, for our products in the Indian consumer mind. We have 2 units of manufacturing in India. We have Seriperumdur in Chennai and we have one in Noida. And both are manufacturing units for all our products in India. We manufacture everything in India, including the mobile phones which are being sold, and they're all being made in Noida plant. We have more than 400 stores, which are, of course, franchise stores. We cater to almost, if I say in the consumer durable space, we touch base with almost 18,000 retail points in India. And in the mobile sector, we touch base more than 100,000 retail points in India. It's a big business and a big retail interaction and engagement with our partners in India. Manpower, almost 7,500 in India in terms of both sales, marketing, and manufacturing. And India is contributing almost 4% to the global turnover, which stands today at almost this year. Expected turnover could be around close to 170 billion US dollar. And in India, we've grown by almost 27% over last year. Now, coming back to what key tasks we had in hand, I think we are trying to only say that we need to reinvent our businesses in this country. Either we do reinventing in manufacturing, we do reinventing in product lineup, and we do in communication, we do in distribution, customer service, and of course, finally, the leadership development. There are a few core areas where we probably failed, that we need to reinvent ourselves and keep updating ourselves on the consumer change. I'll take up one part, that is manufacturing. Of course, manufacturing, additional manufacturing was set up in Siriparandur because there's a new factory. Earlier we had factory in only in Noida. We set up a local R&D center. That's a big support. Oh, well, I'm back on my presentation. Thank you. Sorry. Great. Thank you so much. I'll just take it. Well, that's where we were at. So manufacturing, as you see in the slide, we have a software center in Noida and in Bangalore, and we set up a innovation lab. What is more important to understand from our perspective in manufacturing is that PIT, what we call Process Innovation Lab, which we have in India, which is basically looking at a VOC of the customer. That is from where we start looking at what consumer insight is all about. And that is a big success for us because we try to understand the consumer behavior through this VOC team. Globally, every subsidiary is supposed to have a VOC team in the subsidiary to understand the market situation. On product, we always drove innovative products right through our business time. And we always try to showcase supremacy in our technology and design. Clear examples are panel TVs, mobile phones, and new notebooks for what you see in the 9 series now currently being made available to Indian consumer. Communication, we try to look at the international communication and try to how can we localize the whole communication to consumer connect in India right now. And of course, we try to focus more on youth-based communication, which enables us to connect much faster with our customers. In distribution, we focus on organized retail presence. We have channels like distribution, what I talked about, distribution, modern retail format, we have a regional retail format, we have franchise stores, we have our multi-dealer outlets. So there are at least 5 kind of outlets, the retail chains which we normally connect with. And of course, there is shop and shop. Also, we have an online business as well on television. Service, multiple touch points for all consumers, helpline, email, and walk-in customers. Customer service for different product categories. So this is exactly what I was talking. We need to look at every aspect of business to reinvent ourselves, to supplement our brand situation. This is what I was talking about, our status in terms of global brand ranking. And in India also we have moved pretty fast. This year, most aspirational brand in the year 2011 by FE. ET also, number 27. We were at 43, 2010 in India, and we moved to 27. If you see from the slide, every brand has gone down excepting Samsung. We grew almost from 43, we came to 27th ranking in India. Manufacturing, as I talked about plant, we have these 2 plants. We increase capacities as demands go up, and also setting up these R&D plants to understand the customer behavior. And of course, we are the 4th globally localized product development. When I say localized, we focus a lot on localized product development because the products which are selling outside this country may not be conducive enough to be able to connect with the local consumer. So we need to definitely customize the products in India as well. Product innovation, I think the first to launch innovative product range like 3D LEDs. We were the first in the country to talk about panel televisions, from LCD to LED to 3D to smart TVs. That's the kind of innovation factor which we've been following throughout the last 7, 8 years. And that's what gives us leadership, advantage. It gives us a good technology platform for the consumer to understand more about this organization and this brand per se. And it's not only TVs I'm talking about, even mobile phones. We are the largest selling smartphones business group now in the world. We beat Apple, we beat every other brand in smartphones because we saw the future coming. That's what I was talking about. The whole innovation is all keep innovating yourself continuously to keep the leadership position on for yourself. Again, localization in terms of products and also communication. We moved from cricket to brand endorsements. We did a lot of cricket initially in the early 2000s. We came down to brand endorsement. Again, the whole factor is to make sure that we try to connect with our products, with our consumers in this country. Technology, of course, we talked about technology in every factor. If I say smart oven, it has to be showcase something different to the consumer. It's not just cooking and heating. It is much beyond cooking. We talked about just not cooking. We brought out a communication. We said microwave is not only heating, it is actual cooking. So, I mean, that's the way we talked about our products. Note PCs, mobile phones, the Galaxy Ninja phones, which are quite popular, the tablets, which have again become pretty popular in India. So we have been keep innovating on our every product development. We try to use international communication to leverage the brand image to begin with. And finally, we also try to make localized communication. I will not show all those communications. I have enough here to show, but I would like to skip because there's not enough time on us. But the fact remains that just to communicate here that we always try to keep the international image, pointing out to the local business, and then, of course, localizing the whole communication for the benefit of the local consumers. Consumer Connect, as I said, we shifted from cricket to celebrity status on mobiles, home appliances, and we talked about how, and the most important part is on the sports endorsements, always being a main sponsor for Olympic games. That brings us a lot of image build up, and people connect fast with the brand per se. Distribution, wider reach. We have, like I said, almost 300 distributors now in India for our durable business. Channels I talked about, how many channels we connect with. So this, again, I said, we keep reinventing. Like initially, we didn't have brand shops, we didn't have shop and shop, we didn't have regional retails. So to keep pace with time, to keep understanding the consumer needs, the more connectivity with our partners and consumers, we make sure that we keep moving into the right slot in terms of channel distribution. That's where I said, if you see in the mobile space, from a regional distribution to national distribution, now we've come down to outlets like smart cafes, which is absolutely a revolutionary concept brought in India. Nobody has ever thought of that kind of channel. Today, smart cafes have become the most sought after selling points for consumers who are trying to come and experience the mobile phones and the notebooks and the televisions in these small counters. So what I'm trying to say is that we keep changing, keep innovating even in distribution setup to understand the consumer need and how can we reach out to the consumer and bring the consumer to our stores and have a good footfall. Service, as I said earlier, service keeps improving themselves. We have different sections in service. One is consumer service direct, one is premium service, one we call a platinum service also, which is giving customer a special fact of leverage, who is our premium buyers. We talked about helplines. We talked about even in terms of Samsung Doctor, which means that he goes to the customer's house. After the sale is made, he makes the customer understand the product. So basically, he becomes his doctor for the product which he's bought. So he can just make one call and the guy's on the doorstep of the consumer. So these kind of innovations have kept us ahead of competition. We need to be seen as a best consumer-friendly company in terms of consumer service. So this service factor is ultimately what brings us, I think, the best look and feel for the organization and the best connect for the brand like Samsung. Finally, the leadership development, I think different modules of courses for all levels of people in sales and marketing to keep them abreast of what is happening internally, globally, nationally, so that we are able to use different marketing tools. From time and on, we bring them into some kind of workshops and make them understand the best practices, the best processes which we need to talk about, so that we can streamline our business to the consumer benefit and ultimately are able to make sure that our deliverables in terms of product, in terms of technology, in terms of service, in terms of distribution is the best in the country. And that's where it comes from, that we have continuously been reinventing ourselves to be the flavor of the country as a most favored brand like Samsung. And that's from my side, and thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zucchi. Very important aspect that every smallest aspect of the business needs to be looked at for reinvention, and only then the complete holistic picture comes. So thank you very much for your inputs. Because in the interest of time, what I'd suggest is that we directly invite questions because, I'm sure you would have some questions which you'd like to, connect with the panelists here. Can we have some questions, please? Yeah, the gentleman here. May I request you to introduce yourself, your organization, and the question. Who are you addressing the question to?
Okay, I am Akash Srivastav. I work with KFC. And my question is for Ajay. Domino's is repositioning itself from a hardcore delivery brand to a dine-in cum delivery brand. So this marks a typical movement from a 1,000 square feet format to maybe an 1,800 or a 2,000 format. What impact will this have on the product offering that Domino's is going to have in the coming decade? The profitability levels, given the fact that the same-store sales growth may not be 30-35%, CAGR may not be 50%, the share prices may not be that high because you're moving into a format where real estate prices are very high and dine-ins may not bring in the right APCs for you. And the change of culture and the leadership within the company.
It is one of the shortest questions I've ever heard. I hope I'll give you a short answer though. Firstly, it's not positioning. Positioning used loosely maybe, but classical positioning is not what this is. We still are a delivery-centric company. We will remain a delivery-centric company. We are experts in delivery. All our marketing, communication, classical positioning from a marketing perspective will all be always centered around delivery for the foreseeable 5 to 10 years. I can't think as long as that, but just to answer your question, as far as I can see. Now this journey of dine-in has not started today. We tweaked our model 5-6 years back. When we realized that there was this, research was telling this us and there were some other insights which were there, that there was this burgeoning, growing, need of people, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities to step out and over the weekend or whatever with family and all that. It's a form of an entertainment, so to say. So that's where we started investing in infrastructure, larger stores, more high streetish and visible, and also processes and people to support it. On the profitability front, and some intense ROI calculations went into it because this was a big move, and we realized that the return on investment, was as good as it was on our delivery model if we could bifurcate the two pieces singularly. So there was no concern on that. As far as going forward is concerned, we are, let me just add one more layer to this. Our same store growth on delivery as well as dine-in, while all our marketing energy and everything is delivery centric, they are growing equally fast. 50, 55, 60% system level growth, delivery separately, dine-in separately. Same store growth of 24% over 6 years, delivery separately, dine-in separately, similar. Today dine-in business is lower than delivery, but it is a significant portion of our business. So we are not going to, our model has not turned upside down in the sense that profitability, the 18.7 EBITDA return on sale is keeping both in mind. Our 40 times EBITDA multiple on share price, whatever reasons the market has a reason to put it there, is based on both these. It is not just that. Are our efforts going to change as far as future is concerned? No. Our marketing energies, positioning are all going to be, we are experts in delivery and that's where we will stay. But we'll keep reinforcing our dine-in model with process level, ground level, infrastructure, people and so on. Keeping, of course, a Hawkeye-like focus on profitability because being a limited company, we are answerable to our shareholders and our investors on return.
My question is to Mr. Vasant Kumar. For Max, given that you have to keep a certain inventory value any which way on the floor, and you don't want to have a lot of leftover, does it mean necessarily that you do a whole lot more designs than building a depth in a design?
May I please request you to introduce yourself?
My name is Ashwini. I'm an independent retail business consultant. And second question on top of that to Mr. Vasant Kumar only is that how do you see yourself competing with the discount outlets of the brands? Because that's also a formidable proposition for somebody who's wanting to afford wanting to buy a brand but not able to afford it.
The first question definitely is a good question. Second is easy to answer. Being in value fashion, we need to balance between the depth and the rotation. Our positioning is above high hypermarket and below a brand, which means we have to offer fashionable merchandise, which requires volume to justify the price. When we say around 25% below a brand, I need to justify the volume to the vendor, volume to our stores also, because it has a lot of cut size issue and all that if you go too low. What we do is we categorize the stores into ABC, depending upon the throughput. We'll learn everything over a 12-month period. We'll know which store, which kind of traction that's gaining. And according to the traction, we will balance the stock in a manner that in a 6-week period, it can turn itself. We will feed that much depth that can turn in 6 weeks. That's how we proceed. If we go lower than that, then there is a problem of too many loose pieces there. If we go higher than that, the customer then doesn't see freshness. And our margins also need to get rotated fast. That's how we get our returns. So it's a balance which we do. It requires a lot of planning, integration of planning, operations and design. Being a private brand, we control right from design of the product, production, delivery and the full cycle. That helps us to rotate faster. We are not vulnerable to an outside brand to have this variation. This is the first question. Second question, discount segment is male dominated. All the discount players, 90% sales comes from male. Invariably, a 20, 25-year-old male who hunt for brands at a discount. Our format is women friendly. Women like to browse. Women like to see the range. They will never go as hunters. So, being a target segment as women, we have no problem. In fact, what we do is we handle the perception problem by deliberately avoiding malls with discount formats. In fact, so much so we tell the mall, if there's a discount format, please excuse us out. We won't be there. Because we have a perception problem, not actual product delivery problem. By handling perception and ensuring that we are women focused, there's absolutely no problem in any of the discount formats which is there in the market.
Okay, 2 questions, last 2 questions, but we'll have to make them quick ones, please.
Yeah, this question is for Vasant. I'm Sapan from Donier Industry. As you said that in value fashion, there is a 95% failure rate overseas and Indian market. So I'd like to more highlight on this. And secondly, as you said that you are a profitable company, so what is your rental bite out or what's your contribution to the rental cost? Because that is the highest concern area in Indian market.
First question I didn't understand. The failure rate.
As you said in value fashion, there is a 95% failure rate in Indian market.
Yeah.
So, can you put some more highlights?
See, everybody sees the gross margin. I mean, just like an airline industry. This is an industry with high capex, high opex, and low net realized margin. Internationally, the best value fashion retailer will get 4% net margin, which means even if you blink for 3-4 days a year, the year's profit is gone. People see the gross margin and come into the field. They say 40, 50, 60% gross margin. Let me understand. But out of this 50%, he has to spend 46% to maintain.
What is the EBITDA you are having?
Overall, we are profitable. I don't want, because a private company, I don't want to discuss. It is a profitable company. We are close to double digit in terms of store EBITDA. And okay, now we go on a store by store basis. We'll tweak the merchandise to ensure that our rentals as a percentage of sale is single digit. Through that, we ensure that we don't get into the red.
And your rental cost?
May I request you to, you could take this conversation, after the...
The second question was...
rental cost, rental percentage.
Yeah, answered. Thanks.
Can we have the one last question, please?
My name is Sharat Sharma and I represent a company called TCI, which is into 3PL. So what do you think, outsource model works better, or a model like what Flipkart has done, which is in-house developed and in-house managed, or it is a mix of both?
I would reckon a hybrid model in hindsight is a good model to have. But if you are starting your business, if I go back to our example, when we were starting a large food kind of a business, way back in 95, 96, the infrastructural challenges, the supply chain challenges are far that many more than it is probably currently. But having traveled all this path over the last 15, 17 years, even today, I was giving this example, we engage on an outsourced basis but dedicated basis, some 90 odd refrigerated vehicles every single day. The largest ref player in the country also has a fleet as big as this. In fact, interestingly, one of my commissary managers for West was telling me while we were driving here that why don't we start a ref company on our own? We'll be as big as the biggest in the trade. So, while it may sound ludicrous and funny, I think for India, you have to keep in mind these infrastructural challenges. Things, despite all the growth on the infrastructure side, is not going to move at the pace at which you want. So a hybrid model is probably, in a nutshell, to cut a long story short, is what I would recommend.
Great, thank you very much. I just want to very quickly sum up, so based on all the points that we've had and the experience that our panelists have shared, reinvention is about 5 C's, or staying ahead of 5 C's. So be it competition, be it consumer, be it connect with the consumer, challenges, and commoditization. So how do you stay ahead of all these and, and surprise the consumer in this case? Just one last question before we close. While we're talking about reinvention of businesses, and we have a lot of experience here, would you like to suggest anything to our Indian government or politics as to how can they reinvent? Great. Okay, thank you so much.